Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the front of his classroom on a cold Tuesday morning in March. He held a piece of chalk in his hand and looked at the 23 students sitting before him. These were his best students, the ones who had chosen to take advanced calculus even though it was one of the hardest classes at Riverside University. Marcus turned to the blackboard and began to write. The chalk made soft scratching sounds as he carefully drew out a long equation. Numbers and symbols filled the board. Greek letters mixed with regular letters. There were fractions within fractions and strange curved symbols that only mathematics students would recognize. When he finished writing, Marcus stepped back and looked at his work. The equation stretched across the entire board. He turned to face his students again. "This problem," he said, tapping the board with his chalk, "has been challenging mathematicians for over 30 years. It is a modified version of an unsolved problem in differential equations. Some very smart people have tried to solve it. Most of them failed." The students stared at the board. Some of them pulled out their phones to take pictures. Others quickly wrote the equation in their notebooks. A few students looked worried. One young man in the back row shook his head slowly. "I am not asking you to solve this today," Marcus continued. "I am not even sure you can solve it this semester, but I am offering extra credit to anyone who can bring me a correct solution before finals. 20 points added to your final grade. 20 points. That was enough to move someone from a B to an A." Several students sat up straighter in their chairs. "Can we work in groups?" a young woman named Sarah asked. "You can work however you want," Marcus replied. "Use books. Use computers. Ask other professors. I do not care. I just want to see if anyone can solve it." Marcus had been giving this problem to his advanced students for 5 years now. In all that time, only 2 students had ever made real progress on it. No one had ever solved it completely. He did not really expect anyone to solve it this year either. But he believed in challenging his students. He believed in showing them that mathematics was not just about following rules. It was about creativity. It was about seeing patterns that others missed. The class ended 15 minutes later. Students packed their bags and left the room, still talking about the problem. Some seemed excited, others seemed defeated before they even started. Marcus gathered his papers and left too. He had another class to teach in the building next door. The equation remained on the blackboard, waiting. 3 floors below in the basement break room, Sujin Park was eating her lunch. She sat alone at a small table, a plastic container of rice and vegetables in front of her. She wore dark blue work pants and a matching shirt with her name tag pinned to the front. The name tag said S.J. Park, Custodial Services. Sujin was 42 years old, though people often thought she looked younger. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her hands were rough from years of cleaning work. She had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. But she did not smile very often anymore. She finished her lunch quickly and checked her phone. It was 1:30 in the afternoon. Her shift did not start until 10 o'clock at night, but she had come in early today. She needed the extra hours. The rent was due next week, and her daughter Minji needed new shoes for school. Sujin thought about Minji as she washed her container in the break room sink. Her daughter was 15 now, a sophomore in high school. She was smart, so smart. She got good grades and talked about going to college. Sujin wanted that for her more than anything. She wanted Minji to have the chances that she herself had lost. 15 years ago, Sujin had been a different person. She had been a university student in Seoul, South Korea. She had studied mathematics. She had loved it. The way numbers and equations fit together like puzzle pieces. She had dreamed of becoming a professor, of spending her life solving problems and teaching others. But then her father got sick. The medical bills piled up. Her family needed money. Seo-jin made the hard choice to leave school and immigrate to America, where her aunt lived. Her aunt had promised her a job and a place to stay. Soo-jin thought she would work for a year or 2, save money and then return to her studies. That was 15 years ago. She never went back to school. Life got in the way. She got married. She had Minji. Her marriage fell apart. Her ex-husband moved back to Korea. Suddenly she was alone in America with a baby daughter and bills to pay. Mathematics became something she used to do, a memory from another life. Now she cleaned buildings. She mopped floors and emptied trash cans and wiped down desks. It was honest work and she was not ashamed of it. But sometimes, late at night when the university was quiet and empty, She walked past classrooms and looked at the equations on the blackboards. She felt something twist inside her chest. A feeling she could not quite name. Sadness, maybe. Or longing. At 10 o'clock that night, Sujin clocked in for her shift. She pushed her cleaning cart down the long hallways of the mathematics building. Her cart held spray bottles, paper towels, trash bags, a mop, and a bucket. The wheels squeaked softly as she walked. The building was quiet. Most students went home by 9. A few stayed later in the study rooms, but even they usually left by 10:30. Sujin liked the quiet. It gave her time to think. Sometimes she listened to Korean music through her earbuds as she worked. Sometimes she just listened to the silence. She took the elevator to the 3rd floor and began working her way through the classrooms. Empty trash cans, wipe the desks, clean the boards, check that all the windows were locked. It was the same routine every night. At 11:15, she entered room 304. This was Dr. Chen's classroom. She had cleaned it hundreds of times before. She moved through her usual routine, working efficiently. She had just finished wiping down the last row of desks when she turned to clean the blackboard. Then she stopped. The equation was still there, stretched across the board in white chalk. Sujin stood very still, staring at it. Her hand holding the eraser hung frozen in the air. She recognized what she was looking at. She had not studied mathematics in 15 years, but some things stayed with you. This was a differential equation, a complicated one, very complicated. She could see layers of complexity in it, transformations and boundary conditions that made her head spin just looking at them. But there was something else too, something that made her heart beat faster. She saw patterns in the equation, familiar patterns, things that reminded her of problems she had solved long ago back when she was a student in Seoul. Sujin looked at the door. The hallway was empty. No one was around to see her. Slowly, she pulled her phone from her pocket. She opened the camera and took a picture of the equation. Her hands shook slightly as she did it. She did not know why she was shaking. It was just an equation, just numbers and symbols on a board. But it did not feel like just an equation. It felt like something more, like a door opening, like a voice calling to her from far away. After she took the picture, Sujin erased the board. She wiped it clean until no trace of the equation remained. Then she finished cleaning the room and moved on to the next one. But she could not stop thinking about the equation. It stayed in her mind as she worked. She saw the symbols in her head even as she mopped the floors. When she took her break at 2 in the morning, she sat in the empty cafeteria and looked at the picture on her phone again. She told herself to forget about it. She told herself it was none of her business. She was a janitor. She cleaned buildings. She did not solve mathematics problems anymore. That part of her life was over. But the equation would not leave her alone. It whispered to her. It challenged her. And somewhere deep inside, in a place she thought had gone quiet years ago, something woke up. Sujin saved the picture in a special folder on her phone. She labeled the folder Old Dreams. Then she put her phone away and went back to work. She had 4 more hours until her shift ended. She had floors to clean and trash to empty. She had real work to do, but the equation stayed with her, bright and clear in her memory, and she knew, even though she did not want to admit it, that she would think about it again. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, maybe every day until she figured out what it meant. The door she thought had closed was opening again, just a crack, and through that crack, light was beginning to shine. For 2 days, Sujin tried to ignore the equation. She went to work. She cleaned the buildings. She came home and made breakfast for Minji before her daughter left for school. Then she slept for a few hours and got up to make dinner. It was the same routine she had followed for years, but the equation was always there in the back of her mind. When she closed her eyes, she saw the symbols. When she was quiet, she heard them calling to her. On Thursday night, she finally gave in. During her break at 2 in the morning, Sujin went to the university library. The library was open 24 hours during the semester. At this time of night, it was nearly empty. A few students sat at tables studying with tired eyes. The librarian at the front desk was reading a book. Sujin walked to the computer area in the back. She signed in using her employee ID. The computer screen glowed bright in the dim library. She pulled out her phone and looked at the picture of the equation again. Then she opened a blank document and started to work. She began by breaking the equation into smaller pieces. She wrote out each part, trying to remember the rules she had learned so long ago. Some things came back to her easily. Other things she had forgotten. When she got stuck, she searched online for help. She found websites that explained mathematical concepts. She found old textbooks that had been scanned and posted online. Time disappeared when she worked. She forgot where she was. She forgot that she was supposed to be cleaning. She forgot everything except the problem in front of her. When her break ended at 2:30, she was surprised. It felt like only 5 minutes had passed. Reluctantly, she logged off the computer. She had to finish her work. She could not get in trouble for taking too long on break, but she printed out what she had written so far. She folded the papers and put them in her pocket. The next night, she came back to the library during her break. And the night after that. And the night after that. Every night she worked on the equation for 30 minutes. Sometimes she made progress. Sometimes she just stared at the screen, confused. During the day when she should have been sleeping, she found herself thinking about the problem instead. She lay in bed with her eyes closed, working through equations in her head. She filled a notebook with calculations. She kept the notebook hidden in her drawer under her clothes where Minji would not find it. She did not want to tell her daughter what she was doing. She did not want to explain why a 42-year-old janitor was trying to solve a mathematics problem. It seemed foolish even to her. What was the point? She was not a student. She would not get extra credit. No one even knew she was working on it, but she could not stop. The problem had grabbed hold of her and would not let go. 2 weeks after she first saw the equation, Dr. Marcus Chen checked on it during his office hours. He sometimes left problems on the board for days, curious to see if anyone would work on them between classes. But this one was gone, of course. The janitors cleaned the boards every night. He pulled up the equation on his computer and looked at it again. In 2 weeks, 3 students had come to his office to ask questions about it. They had made some attempts, but none of them were close to a solution. He was not surprised. This problem had defeated better students than these. Still hoping someone will solve your impossible problem? Dr. Patricia Williams asked from the doorway. She was another mathematics professor, Marcus's friend and colleague. Marcus smiled. Hope is free, he said. You have been giving them that problem for 5 years, Patricia said, walking into his office. Maybe it is time to admit that undergraduates cannot solve it. Maybe, Marcus agreed. But I like to give them something to reach for. Something that shows them mathematics is not finished. There are still mysteries out there. Patricia sat down in the chair across from his desk. How is your research going? She asked. They talked about work for a while. About papers they were writing and conferences they would attend. About department politics and student complaints. Normal things. But part of Marcus's mind was still on that equation. He wondered if anyone would ever solve it. He wondered if he should make it a little easier, give the students more hints, but no. He would leave it as it was. Sometimes the best learning came from struggling with something difficult. While Marcus and Patricia talked in the mathematics building, Sue Jin was at home trying to sleep. It was 3 in the afternoon. She had gotten home from work at 7 that morning. She should have been asleep hours ago, but she could not stop thinking. She had hit a wall in her work on the equation. She had made progress on the first part, breaking down the problem and simplifying it. But now she was stuck. There was a transformation she needed to make, but she could not figure out how to do it. The methods she remembered from university did not seem to work. Finally, she gave up on sleeping. She got out of bed and made herself tea. She sat at the small kitchen table and opened her notebook. Maybe if she looked at it again with fresh eyes, she would see something new. She was still working when Minji came home from school at 4 o'clock. Her daughter dropped her backpack by the door and came into the kitchen. Mom, why are you awake? Minji asked. Did you sleep at all? A little, Sujin lied. She tried to close her notebook, but Minji had already seen it. What is all that? Minji asked, looking at the pages covered in numbers and symbols. Just something I'm working on, Sujin said. It is not important. Minji looked at her mother with concern. Are you okay? You have been acting weird lately. Always writing in that notebook. Always tired. I'm fine, Sujin said. She forced a smile. How was school? Minji talked about her day while Sujin made her a snack. But Sujin could feel her daughter watching her, worried. She knew she needed to be more careful. She could not let this problem take over her life. She had responsibilities. She had a daughter to take care of. That night at work, Soo-jin promised herself she would only work on the equation for 15 minutes during her break. No more. She needed to focus on her real job. But when 2 o'clock came and she sat down at the library computer, something happened. She looked at the problem again, at the place where she had been stuck. And suddenly, like a light turning on in a dark room, she saw it. She saw what she needed to do. Her heart started beating fast. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. She forgot about the 15-minute limit. She forgot about everything except the equation. The transformation she needed was not a modern one. It was an old technique, something she had learned in Korea. Most students today probably did not know it because newer methods had replaced it. But for this problem, the old way worked better. She could substitute variables in a way that simplified the boundary conditions. Then she could work backwards from there. She wrote quickly, afraid the idea would slip away if she did not capture it fast enough. Pages of calculations poured out of her. She checked her work as she went, making sure each step was correct. At some point, another janitor walked by. "Hey, SJ, you okay?" he called. Soo-jin jumped. She had not heard him coming. "Yes, I am fine," she said. "You have been here a long time," the man said. "Your break ended an hour ago." Soo-jin looked at the clock on the computer screen. 3:15 in the morning. She had been working for over an hour. "Oh no," she said. "I am sorry. I lost track of time." "It is okay," the man said. "We are not busy tonight. But you should probably get back before someone notices." Soo-jin quickly saved her work and logged off. She hurried back to her cart feeling guilty. She had never taken such a long break before. She prided herself on being a good worker, reliable and responsible. What had she been thinking? But as she pushed her cart down the hallway, she could not help feeling excited too. She had made real progress tonight. She was getting close to something. She could feel it. Over the next week, Soo-jin fell into a strange double life. During the day, she was a tired mother, taking care of Minji and trying to sleep. At night, she was a janitor, cleaning buildings and staying out of people's way. But during her breaks, in those stolen minutes at the library computer, she became someone else. She became the person she used to be, the mathematics student from Seoul. She became someone who solved problems and saw patterns and understood the language of numbers. She worked on the equation every night. Sometimes she made progress. Sometimes she hit dead ends and had to start over. Her coworkers started to notice her strange behavior. They saw her scribbling numbers on scrap paper during lunch. They saw her staring into space, lost in thought. "What are you always writing?" one woman asked her. "Just practice," Soo-jin said. "I am helping my daughter with her math homework." It was not exactly a lie. She did help Minji with homework sometimes, but Minji was in 10th grade. She did not need help with differential equations. At home, Minji was getting more worried. Her mother was always tired now. She fell asleep at the dinner table. She forgot things. One morning, Soo-jin left for work still wearing her slippers. Minji had to call her and tell her to come back and change into real shoes. "Mom, you are scaring me," Minji said. "What is going on with you?" "Nothing, sweetheart," Soo-jin said. "I am just working on something. I will be done soon." But she did not know if that was true. The problem was bigger than she had thought. Every time she solved one part, she found another layer underneath. Soo-jin carried the solution with her for 3 days. She folded the 6 pages carefully and kept them in the pocket of her work uniform. They were always there, a secret weight against her side. She touched them sometimes through the fabric, making sure they were still there. She did not know what to do with them. Every option seemed wrong. She could not claim the extra credit. She was not a student. The offer was only for people enrolled in Dr. Chen's class. If she tried to submit it as if she were a student, that would be cheating. She could lose her job for that. She could simply throw the solution away. Forget she ever worked on it. Go back to her normal life. But the thought of throwing away 3 weeks of work made her feel sick. Those pages represented something. They were proof that she still had her mind, that the years of cleaning floors had not erased who she used to be. She could tell Dr. Chen directly. Walk up to him and explain what she had done. But every time she imagined that conversation, she felt afraid. What would he think of her? A janitor who spent her work break solving math problems. He might think she was wasting time. He might report her to her supervisor. She might get in trouble for using the university computers for personal reasons. On the first day, She almost threw the solution in the trash 3 times. Each time she could not make herself do it. On the second day, she wrote a letter to Dr. Chen explaining everything. But when she read it back to herself, it sounded foolish. She tore it up. On the third day, she made a decision. It was Thursday night, almost midnight. Su-jin pushed her cleaning cart toward the mathematics building administrative office. The office was empty at this time of night. All the secretaries had gone home hours ago. But the faculty mailboxes were in a room that was never locked. Students and staff needed access to drop off papers and messages at all hours. Su-jin looked around carefully. The hallway was empty. She left her cart outside and walked into the mailbox room. Rows of small wooden boxes lined the walls, each one labeled with a professor's name. She found the one that said, Dr. Marcus Chen. From her pocket, she pulled out a clean copy of her solution. She had rewritten it neatly on fresh printer paper during her break at the library. No smudges. No coffee stains. It looked professional, but she had not signed it with her real name. At the bottom of the last page, she had written only, "From a fellow seeker of truth." She liked that phrase. It felt right. She was seeking truth. That was what mathematics was, in the end. A way to find truth in numbers and patterns. A language for describing the universe. Su-jin slipped the papers into Dr. Chen's mailbox. They barely fit. She had to fold them slightly. Then she quickly left the room and went back to her cleaning cart. Her heart was beating fast as if she had done something wrong. But she had not. She had only shared her work. There was nothing wrong with that. She pushed her cart down the hallway and tried to focus on her work. But she could not stop thinking about what she had done. Would Dr. Chen even look at it? Maybe he would think it was a prank. Maybe he would throw it away without reading it. Or maybe he would read it and see the mistakes. Su-jin knew her solution was correct. She had checked it many times. But doubt crept into her mind. What if she had missed something? What if there was an error she could not see? She barely slept that day. She lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, going over the solution in her head. By the time Minji came home from school, Su-jin was exhausted and nervous. "Mom, you look terrible," Minji said bluntly. "Thank you, my dear daughter," Su-jin said with a weak smile. "Seriously, what is going on? Are you sick? Should we go to the doctor?" "I am not sick," Su-jin said. "I am just tired. Work has been busy." Minji did not look convinced, but she did not push. She made her mother tea and ordered them dinner from a nearby restaurant because Su-jin was too tired to cook. They ate together quietly, Minji doing her homework at the table while Su-jin tried to eat. That night at work, Su-jin found it hard to concentrate. She kept thinking about the mailbox. Had Dr. Chen come to the office today? Had he found the solution? What did he think of it? She cleaned the same desk 3 times without realizing it. She forgot to empty a trash can and had to go back for it. Her supervisor noticed and gave her a concerned look, but he did not say anything. Su-jin had worked there for 3 years and was always reliable. Everyone was allowed to have an off night. The next morning, Friday, Dr. Marcus Chen arrived at his office at 8 o'clock. He had 2 classes to teach that day and a department meeting in the afternoon. He was carrying a travel mug of coffee in one hand and his briefcase in the other. Before going to his office, he stopped by the mailroom to check his mailbox. He did this every morning. Usually there were memos from the department, notes from students, sometimes advertisements for academic conferences. Today there was a stack of papers folded into his box. Marcus pulled them out and unfolded them. 6 pages covered in neat handwriting. Mathematical notation filled the pages. He started to glance through it while walking to his office, thinking it was probably a student's homework submission. Then he stopped walking. He was standing in the middle of the hallway, staring at the papers. Other professors walked past him, but he did not notice them. This was not homework. This was the impossible problem. His impossible problem. Someone had solved it. Marcus quickly walked to his office and closed the door. He sat at his desk and spread the papers out in front of him. He read them slowly, carefully, following each step. The solution used a classical substitution method that Marcus had not seen anyone use in years. Modern approaches to these problems usually relied on computer simulations and numerical methods. But this solution was pure mathematics, elegant and old-fashioned, and it was correct. Marcus went through it line by line, checking every calculation. He looked for errors. He tested the boundary conditions. Everything worked. He sat back in his chair and ran his hand through his hair. Impossible, he muttered. But it was not impossible. The proof was right in front of him. He looked at the signature at the bottom of the last page. A fellow seeker of truth, no name. No student ID number. Nothing to identify who had written this. Marcus looked at the papers again. The handwriting was neat and confident. Not the handwriting of a nervous student. There were no eraser marks, no crossed-out sections. Whoever wrote this had copied it from earlier work, making a clean final version. He noticed something else too. The paper was standard university printer paper, the kind available from any library printer. But there was a small coffee stain in the corner of page 3. Just a faint brown ring, as if someone had set a cup down too close to the paper. Marcus picked up his phone and called Patricia Williams. "Patricia, can you come to my office? I need you to see something. I have class in 20 minutes, she said. This is important. Trust me." 10 minutes later, Patricia was sitting across from Marcus, reading through the solution. Her eyes got wider with each page. When she finished, she looked up at him. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "Someone left it in my mailbox, anonymously." "Who?" "I do not know. They only signed it, a fellow seeker of truth." Patricia read through the solution again, more slowly this time. "This is brilliant," she said. "The approach is completely unconventional. Most graduate students would not think to use this method, but it works perfectly." "I know," Marcus said, "so what are you going to do?" "I need to find out who wrote it." Marcus started with his class. During his advanced calculus lecture that afternoon, he announced to his students that someone had solved the problem. "I want to congratulate whoever submitted this solution," he said. "It is excellent work. Please come see me during office hours so we can discuss it and I can give you your extra credit." The students looked at each other, confused. No one raised their hand. No one came forward. After class, Marcus stopped several of his best students. "Did you solve it?" He asked each one. They all said no. Some had tried and given up. Some had been too intimidated to even start. None of them had submitted anything. Marcus sent an email to everyone enrolled in his class. He described the solution and asked the solver to identify themselves. No one responded. He talked to the department head, Dr. Robert Foster. "Someone submitted an anonymous solution to that problem you like to give," Marcus explained. "The solution is correct and quite sophisticated, but I cannot figure out who wrote it." Dr. Foster, a gray-haired man who had been teaching mathematics for 30 years, looked at the solution with interest. "This is good work," he agreed. "Very good work. Have you checked the security cameras?" Marcus had not thought of that. He went to campus security and asked if he could see the footage from the mailroom. The security guard was reluctant at first, but Marcus explained that someone had submitted important academic work, and he needed to identify them to give them credit. The guard pulled up the footage from Thursday night. Marcus watched the screen. At 11:47 p.m., a figure entered the mailroom. The person wore a dark blue uniform and moved quickly. They put something in a mailbox and left within 30 seconds.
"Can you make that clearer?"
Marcus asked. "Can you see their face?" The guard zoomed in and adjusted the image, but the person had kept their head down. The camera angle was wrong. Marcus could not see their face clearly. All he could tell was that it was a woman, probably Asian with her hair pulled back. "That is a custodial uniform," the guard said. "One of the night janitors, probably." Marcus thought about that. A janitor, someone who worked in the building late at night. Someone who might have seen the problem on his blackboard and taken a picture of it, but that seemed unlikely. Why would a janitor be interested in an advanced calculus problem? And even if they were interested, how would they have the knowledge to solve it? Still, it was the only lead he had. That evening, Marcus did something he had never done before. He stayed late at his office, very late. At 10 o'clock, when the janitors started their shifts, he was still there, door open, watching the hallway. He saw several janitors go by. Most of them were men. There was one woman older with gray hair. Another woman, young, maybe in her 20s. Neither of them matched the figure he had seen in the security footage. At 11:30, Marcus finally gave up and went home. Maybe the janitor theory was wrong. Maybe it was a graduate student from another university playing a joke. Maybe he would never know who solved the problem, but he could not let it go. Over the weekend, he kept thinking about the solution, about the elegant method, about the neat handwriting, about the signature, a fellow seeker of truth. Whoever wrote this loved mathematics. He could tell from the way they approached the problem. They had taken time and care. This was not just about getting extra credit or showing off. This was about the joy of solving something difficult. The joy of finding truth in numbers. He wanted to meet this person. He wanted to thank them. He wanted to know their story. On Monday morning, Marcus did something unusual. Instead of erasing the blackboard in his classroom, he wrote a new message on it. In large letters he wrote, "To the person who solved the problem, please contact me. Your work deserves recognition. You have nothing to fear. Dr. Chen." Below that, he wrote his email address and office phone number. Then he left the message on the board and told his students not to erase it. That night, when Sujin came to clean room 304, she saw the message. She stood in front of the blackboard, mop in hand, reading the words again and again. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. He wanted to meet her. He thought her work deserved recognition, but he also thought she had nothing to fear. Did that mean she would not get in trouble? Or was he just saying that to get her to reveal herself? Sujin did not clean the message off the board. She could not bring herself to erase it. Instead, she left it there and cleaned around it. For the rest of her shift, she thought about what to do. Part of her wanted to call the number, to send the email, to step out of the shadows and claim her work, but fear held her back. Fear of consequences, fear of being wrong, fear that she did not deserve recognition because she was just a janitor, and janitors were not supposed to solve impossible mathematics problems. So she said nothing. She finished her shift and went home. The message stayed on the blackboard, waiting for an answer that did not come. Dr. Marcus Chen could not let go of the mystery. A week passed after he left the message on the blackboard and no one contacted him. The message remained there untouched. He asked his students not to erase it. The cleaning staff had apparently left it alone too. But whoever wrote the solution stayed silent. Marcus found himself staying late at his office more often. He told himself he was grading papers or working on research, but really he was hoping. He was hoping to see something, to notice something that would help him identify the mysterious mathematician. Patricia Williams found this amusing. "You are becoming obsessed," she told him one afternoon when she stopped by his office. "It is just a math problem." "It is not just about the problem," Marcus said. "It is about the person who solved it. They clearly have talent. Real talent. I want to know who they are." "Maybe they do not want to be known," Patricia suggested. Maybe they like being anonymous. Marcus had thought of that. But it did not make sense to him. Why solve the problem if you did not want recognition? Why submit it at all? He made copies of the solution and showed it to other professors in the department. Everyone agreed it was excellent work. Dr. Foster, the department head, was particularly impressed. "The classical approach here is remarkable," he said. "Most young mathematicians today rely too heavily on computers. This person clearly has a deep understanding of fundamental principles." "Young?" Marcus said. "What makes you think they are young?" Dr. Foster looked at him with surprise. "Well, I assumed it was one of your students." "I'm not sure anymore," Marcus said. He told Dr. Foster about the security footage, about the figure in the custodial uniform. Dr. Foster frowned. "That seems unlikely. How many janitors do you know who can solve advanced differential equations?" "None," Marcus admitted. "But I also cannot find any student who will admit to solving it." The mystery gnawed at him. He found himself analyzing the handwriting, looking for clues. The writing was neat and precise, with a slight slant to the right. Some of the mathematical symbols were written in a style that was slightly old-fashioned. The way the integral signs curved, the way the Greek letters were formed. It reminded Marcus of textbooks from 20 or 30 years ago. On Thursday, exactly 2 weeks after he received the solution, Marcus made a decision. He wrote a new message on his classroom blackboard. This one was longer than the last. To the person who solved the problem, he wrote, "I understand you may have reasons for remaining anonymous, but I want you to know. Your solution is publishable. It could be turned into an academic paper. This is important work, and it deserves to be shared with the mathematical community. Please consider contacting me. We could work together on this." Dr. Chen, he left his contact information below the message again. Then he went home, hoping that this new message would be enough, that the promise of publication would convince the solver to come forward. That night, Sujin read the new message. She read it 3 times, her mop still in her hands. water dripping slowly onto the floor. Publishable. Academic paper. Mathematical community. The words made her feel dizzy. She had not thought about publication. She had just wanted to solve the problem. But now Dr. Chen was talking about sharing it with other mathematicians. About turning it into something official and permanent. Part of her felt excited. Another part felt terrified. And a third part felt something she had not felt in a long time. Pride. Dr. Chen thought her work was good enough to publish. A real professor, someone who had spent his whole career studying mathematics, thought her solution mattered. But the fear was stronger than the pride. If she came forward, everything would change. People would ask questions. How did a janitor solve this problem? Where did she learn mathematics? Why was she working as a janitor if she was smart enough to solve advanced calculus? She would have to explain her whole story. Her university years in Korea, her abandoned dreams, her failed marriage, her struggle to survive as a single mother in a foreign country. All of it would become public. People would judge her. They would pity her. They would wonder why she had given up on mathematics. Sujin finished cleaning the classroom without erasing the message. She could not bring herself to wipe away Dr. Chen's words. They stayed on the board, white chalk against black, asking her to step forward, asking her to be brave. The next day, Minji noticed her mother's distraction had gotten worse. Sujin burned the rice while making dinner. She forgot to pick up the groceries she had ordered. She fell asleep on the couch at 3 p.m, still wearing her work clothes. "Mom," Minji said, shaking her shoulder gently. "Mom, wake up! What is happening to you?" Sujin opened her eyes and looked at her daughter. Minji looked scared. That scared Sujin more than anything. She was supposed to take care of her daughter, not worry her. "Sit down, sweetheart," Sujin said. "I need to tell you something." They sat together at the kitchen table. Sujin made tea with shaking hands. Then she told Minji everything. About the equation on the blackboard. About spending 3 weeks solving it. About submitting it anonymously. About Dr. Chen's messages asking her to come forward. Minji listened without interrupting. When Sujin finished, there was a long silence. Then Minji said, "Mom, that is amazing." Sujin had expected many reactions, but not that one. "Amazing? You solved an impossible math problem. A problem that university students could not solve. How is that not amazing?" "But I am just a janitor," Sujin said quietly. "No," Minji said firmly. "You are a mathematician who works as a janitor. There is a difference." The words hit Sujin like a physical blow. She felt tears spring to her eyes. For 15 years she had thought of herself as just a janitor. Someone who had given up on her dreams. Someone who had failed. But Minji saw her differently. Her daughter saw who she really was underneath the uniform and the tired eyes and the rough hands. She saw the person Sujin used to be and maybe could still be. "You have to tell him," Minji said. "You have to tell Dr. Chen that you solved it." "I am afraid," Sujin admitted. "Of what?" "Of everything. Of losing my job. Of people laughing at me. Of being wrong about the solution even though I checked it 100 times. "But what if you are right?" Minji asked. "What if this is your chance to do mathematics again? Are you going to let fear stop you?" Sujin did not have an answer. She just sat there holding her cup of tea, while her 15-year-old daughter looked at her with wise eyes. That night at work, Sujin could barely concentrate. She kept thinking about what Minji had said, about being a mathematician who worked as a janitor, about letting fear stop her. During her 2 o'clock break, instead of going to the library, she went to one of the empty classrooms. She sat at a desk and pulled out a notebook. She started to write a letter to Dr. Chen. She wrote about studying mathematics at Seoul National University, about loving the way equations fit together, about having to leave school when her father got sick, about immigrating to America and meaning to go back to her studies but never finding the time or money. She wrote about seeing his problem on the blackboard and feeling something wake up inside her, about working on it during her breaks, about the joy of solving it. Pure and simple. She wrote about being afraid to come forward because she was just a janitor and he was a professor and the gap between them seemed too big to cross. The letter was 3 pages long when she finished. She read it over twice, making small corrections. Her English was good but not perfect. She worried Dr. Chen would judge her for that. But Minji's voice was in her head. "Are you going to let fear stop you?" No, she was not. Sujin folded the letter carefully. Then she wrote Dr. Marcus Chen on the outside. She would deliver it to his office mailbox before her shift ended, and then whatever happened would happen. She felt lighter suddenly, as if she had put down something heavy she had been carrying for a long time. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she would regret it. But at least she would not spend the rest of her life wondering what if. At 6:45 on Monday morning, just before her shift ended, Soo-jin put the letter in Dr. Chen's mailbox. Her hands shook as she did it. This time she was not anonymous. This time she had signed her real name, Park Soo-jin, Custodial Services. Then she went home and tried to sleep, though sleep was impossible. She kept seeing Dr. Chen reading her letter. She kept imagining his reaction. Would he be impressed? Disappointed? Angry that a janitor had wasted his time? At 2 o'clock that afternoon, when Soo-jin finally gave up on sleeping, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Ms. Park? This is Marcus Chen, from the mathematics department. Soo-jin's heart stopped. She could not breathe. She could not speak. Ms. Park? Are you there? Yes, she managed to say. I am here. I got your letter, Dr. Chen said. His voice was kind. I would like to talk with you. Are you available this evening? I know you work nights, but perhaps we could meet before your shift starts. You want to meet with me? Soo-jin could not believe it. Of course. You solved my problem. And your letter. Ms. Park, I think we have a lot to discuss. Could you come to my office at 9 o'clock tonight? Soo-jin agreed because she could not think of a reason to say no. After she hung up, she sat on her bed, staring at the phone in her hand. This was really happening. In 7 hours, she would meet Dr. Chen. She would have to explain herself. She would have to answer his questions. The fear came back, cold and heavy in her stomach. But underneath the fear was something else. Something that felt almost like hope. Minji came home from school at 4 and found her mother standing in front of her closet, looking at her clothes with a desperate expression. He called. Soo-jin said. Dr. Chen called. He wants to meet with me tonight. Minji grinned. Mom, that is great. What are you going to wear? I do not know. I do not have anything. Just work uniforms and old clothes. For the next hour, Minji helped her mother get ready. They found a plain black sweater and dark jeans that looked presentable. Minji insisted Soo-jin wear her hair down instead of in a ponytail. You are going to meet him as a mathematician, Minji said, not as a janitor. At 8:30, Soo-jin stood outside the mathematics building. She was 45 minutes early, too nervous to wait at home any longer. The building looked different at this hour. Still light outside, students walking in and out. This was not her building anymore. This was not the quiet, empty place she cleaned at night. This was someone else's territory. She thought about turning around, going home, calling Dr. Chen and making an excuse. But then she remembered Minji's words. Are you going to let fear stop you? No, she was not. Soo-jin took a deep breath and walked inside. The building was warm and bright. She went to the 3rd floor where Dr. Chen's office was located. The door was open. She could see him inside, sitting at his desk, reading something on his computer. She knocked softly on the doorframe. Dr. Chen looked up and smiled. He stood immediately and came to the door. Ms. Park, he said. Thank you for coming. Please sit down. Soo-jin entered the office on shaking legs. This was the office she had cleaned hundreds of times. But she had never sat in the chair across from his desk. That chair was for students, for colleagues, not for janitors. She sat down carefully, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Dr. Chen sat back down at his desk and looked at her with warm, curious eyes. I have so many questions, he said. But first I want to say your solution is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I have shown it to several colleagues and we all agree. The approach you took is unconventional but elegant. You have real talent, Ms. Park. Soo-jin felt her eyes fill with tears. She blinked quickly, trying to stop them. She did not want to cry in front of him. But it had been so long since anyone called her talented. So long since anyone saw her as anything other than a cleaner. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for saying that. And then the questions began. The conversation started awkwardly. Dr. Chen asked Soo-jin about her background, and she tried to explain in her careful English. She told him about studying mathematics at Seoul National University, one of the best schools in Korea. She had been in her 3rd year when her father got sick with cancer. The medical bills were very expensive, she said, looking down at her hands. My family needed money. I had an aunt in America who said she could help me find work. I thought I would come here for 1 year, maybe 2. Save money, then go back to finish my degree. But you never went back, Dr. Chen said gently. No, life became complicated. I got married. I had my daughter. My husband and I divorced. He went back to Korea. Suddenly I was alone with a baby and no money and no degree. I took the first job I could find. Cleaning buildings, Dr. Chen said. Sujin nodded. She felt ashamed saying it out loud to him. He was a professor. He had spent his whole life in universities. What must he think of her? But when she looked up, Dr. Chen's face showed no judgment. Only curiosity and respect. That must have been very difficult, he said. But you never stopped thinking about mathematics. I tried to stop, Sujin admitted. For many years I tried. It hurt too much to think about what I had lost. But when I saw your problem on the blackboard, she paused, searching for the right words. It was like seeing an old friend. I could not ignore it. Dr. Chen leaned forward in his chair. Tell me about your approach to solving it. Why did you choose that particular substitution method? And then something wonderful happened. As Sujin talked about mathematics, her nervousness disappeared. She explained how she had broken down the problem, how she had recognized patterns from her studies in Korea. She talked about the classical methods she had learned 20 years ago, methods that most modern students did not know because they relied on computer programs instead. Dr. Chen listened carefully, occasionally asking questions. He pulled out a notepad and sketched equations as she talked. They went back and forth, discussing different approaches, debating certain steps. At one point, Dr. Chen said something in technical mathematical language that Sujin did not understand right away, because the English terms were different from the Korean terms she had learned. But when he wrote it out, she understood immediately and offered a thought he had not considered. Yes, Dr. Chen said, his eyes lighting up. That is exactly right. I had not thought about it that way. The conversation lasted for over an hour. Sujin forgot where she was. She forgot to be afraid. This was the life she had dreamed of as a young student. Sitting in an office discussing mathematics with someone who understood, someone who saw her as an equal, at least in this moment. Finally, Dr. Chen sat back and looked at her with a thoughtful expression. Ms. Park, I want to ask you something. Would you be willing to work with me on turning this solution into a published paper? Sujin stared at him. A published paper? But I am not a student. I am not a researcher. I clean buildings. You are a mathematician, Dr. Chen said firmly. A self-taught mathematician who continued studying even when life made it difficult. That makes you more dedicated than half the graduate students I know. But who would publish a paper by a janitor? They would not be publishing a paper by a janitor. They would be publishing a paper by Park Soo-jin, mathematician. Your job title does not change the quality of your work. Woo-jin felt dizzy. This was too much, too big. I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Take all the time you need. Dr. Chen wrote something on a piece of paper and handed it to her. This is my personal email and my cell phone number. You can contact me anytime. Sujin took the paper with shaking hands. She stood to leave and Dr. Chen stood too. He walked her to the door. Ms. Park, he said, thank you for being brave enough to come forward. I know it was not easy. My daughter made me do it, Sujin said with a small smile. Then thank your daughter for me. She is a wise young woman. Sujin left the office in a daze. She walked through the mathematics building, but everything looked different now. The hallways she had mopped 1,000 times seemed brighter somehow. The classrooms she had cleaned felt less like other people's spaces and more like places where she belonged. She checked her phone. It was 10:30. Her shift started in 30 minutes. She had just enough time to get changed into her uniform and start work. The next morning, Sujin told Minji everything that had happened. Her daughter was so excited she nearly dropped her breakfast. He wants to publish a paper with you. Mom, do you know how amazing that is? I said I would think about it, Sujin said. What is there to think about? You have to say yes. But Sujin was not sure. The idea of publishing a paper felt impossible. She would need to do research. She would need to write in academic English. She would need to interact with other mathematicians who had real degrees and real careers. She was just a janitor who had solved one problem. What if she could not do more than that? The next few days passed in a blur. Sujin went to work as usual, But word had started to spread through the mathematics department. Dr. Chen must have told people. She noticed professors looking at her differently. Some of them smiled and nodded. A few stopped her in the hallway to introduce themselves. One night, while she was cleaning a classroom on the second floor, Dr. Patricia Williams came in. Sujin had seen this professor before but had never spoken to her. "Ms. Park?" Dr. Williams said. "I am Patricia Williams. I teach mathematics here. Do you have a moment?" Sujin put down her cleaning spray. "Yes, of course." Dr. Williams sat on one of the desks in a casual way that made Sujin relax slightly. "Marcus told me about your solution. I had to see it for myself. I must say I am impressed." "Thank you," Sujin said quietly. "I heard he asked you to co-author a paper with him. Are you going to do it?" "I do not know. I am afraid I will not be good enough." Dr. Williams laughed, not unkindly. "That is exactly what my best graduate students say. The students who are not good enough never worry about it, so the fact that you are afraid actually tells me you are probably very good." Sujin had not thought about it that way. "Can I tell you something?" Dr. Williams said. "When I was in graduate school, I almost quit. I thought I was not smart enough. I thought everyone else understood things better than me. But my advisor told me something I never forgot. He said that feeling like an imposter means you are challenging yourself. It means you are doing something difficult and important." "You felt like an imposter?" Sujin asked. "But you are a professor." "Exactly. And now you are a mathematician who solved a problem that stumped my graduate students. Do you see? We all start somewhere. We all feel afraid, but we do it anyway." After Dr. Williams left, Sujin thought about what she had said. Maybe being afraid was normal. Maybe everyone felt this way when they tried to do something difficult. That weekend, Sujin made her decision. She called Dr. Chen's number, which he had written on the paper. Her hands shook as she dialed. "Dr. Chen, this is Sujin Park, Ms. Park. I am glad you called. I thought about your offer, about the paper." She took a deep breath. "I want to do it. I want to work with you on the paper." She heard the smile in his voice. "That is wonderful news. When can we start?" They agreed to meet the following Tuesday evening, before Sujin's shift started. Dr. Chen said he would prepare an outline for the paper and they could discuss it together. But before they could meet again, something unexpected happened. On Monday afternoon, while Sujin was sleeping after her night shift, she got a phone call from her supervisor at work. "Sujin, this is David from HR. Can you come to the office tomorrow? We need to talk to you about something." Sujin's heart sank. "Is something wrong? Did I do something bad?" "No, nothing like that. Just come to the office at 3 o'clock, okay?" Sujin barely slept for the rest of the day. She kept imagining different scenarios. Maybe someone had complained about her taking long breaks to work on math problems. Maybe they found out she had been using the library computers for personal work. Maybe she was going to be fired. At 3 o'clock the next day, Sujin went to the HR office. Her supervisor, David, was there, along with the head of facilities management, a woman named Karen. They both smiled when she came in, which confused her. If they were going to fire her, why were they smiling? "Sujin, sit down," Karen said. "We heard something interesting about you." Sujin sat, her stomach churning. "Dr. Chen from the mathematics department contacted us," Karen continued. "He told us about the work you have been doing, about solving his mathematical problem. Is that true?" "Yes," Sujin said quietly. "I am sorry if I should not have—" "Sorry?" Karen interrupted. "Sujin, this is amazing. We have an employee with this kind of talent, and she has been cleaning floors for 3 years. That seems wrong, does not it?" Sujin did not know what to say. David leaned forward. Dr. Chen made a suggestion. He proposed that we create a position for you as a part-time assistant in the mathematics department. You would still work for the university, but instead of custodial work, you would help with department administration, assist with research, and attend classes to update your knowledge. Sujin felt like she could not breathe. "What?" "The mathematics department would pay part of your salary," Karen explained. "We would pay the other part. Your total pay would actually be a little higher than what you make now. And if you want to take classes, the university would cover the tuition costs." "I do not understand," Sujin said. "Why would you do this?" "Because you have talent," David said simply. "Because it would be a waste for you to spend your life cleaning when you could be doing mathematics. And honestly, because it makes the university look good. We like to support our employees. They gave Soo-jin papers to look at, a job description, a salary offer, information about the tuition benefit. She took the papers with numb hands. You do not have to decide right now, Karen said. Think about it. Talk to your daughter. But the offer is real. Soo-jin left the office in shock. She walked through the campus without really seeing where she was going. Part-time position in the mathematics department. Classes, research. It was everything she had dreamed of 15 years ago when she had left Korea. But could she really do it? Could she go back to school at 42? Could she work alongside professors and graduate students who had fancy degrees when she only had 3 years of university from 2 decades ago? She called Minji. Her daughter answered on the second ring. Mom, what is wrong? You never called during the day. They offered me a job, Soo-jin said. In the mathematics department. They want me to study mathematics again. Minji screamed so loud that Soo-jin had to hold the phone away from her ear. Mom, that is incredible. You said yes, right? I told them I would think about it. What is there to think about? Minji, I am scared. What if I am not good enough? What if I fail? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Minji said, Mom, do you remember what you told me when I was learning to ride a bike? You said that being scared means you are about to do something brave. You said the only way to fail is to not try. Soo-jin started to cry standing there in the middle of campus. Other people walked past her, but she did not care. When did you become so wise? I learned from my mom, Minji said. Now go tell them yes before they change their minds. That evening, Soo-jin met Dr. Chen as they had planned. But instead of discussing the paper, she told him about the job offer. Did you do this? She asked. Did you talk to my supervisors? I made a suggestion, Dr. Chen admitted. But they made the decision. They saw the same thing I see. You have talent. You deserve a chance to use it. I am going to say yes, Soo-jin told him. I am terrified, but I am going to say yes. Dr. Chen smiled. Good, then we have work to do. Are you ready? Soo-jin thought about the last 15 years, about cleaning floors while dreaming of equations, about hiding her notebooks under her clothes, about being afraid to be who she really was. She thought about Minji's words, about being brave, about trying. Yes, she said, I am ready. 3 weeks after accepting the new position, Soo-jin stood outside Dr. Chen's classroom feeling like she might be sick. Today was the day she would present her solution to a room full of mathematicians, faculty members, graduate students, even some undergraduate students who had heard about the janitor who solved the impossible problem. Dr. Chen had suggested the seminar. The mathematical community should hear how you approach this problem, he had said. Your method is unique. People can learn from it. Soo-jin had agreed, though now she regretted it. What had she been thinking? She was not a teacher. She was not a researcher. She was someone who had cleaned this very building for 3 years, and now she was supposed to stand in front of these people and pretend she belonged? Mom, you are going to be great. Soo-jin turned. Minji stood beside her wearing her best dress. She had insisted on coming to watch. Soo-jin had tried to talk her out of it, saying it would be boring. But Minji refused to miss it. What if I forget everything? Soo-jin whispered. What if I make a mistake? Then you will fix it, Minji said simply. That is what mathematicians do, right? They find mistakes and fix them. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway. Ms. Park, we are ready for you. Soo-jin took a deep breath and walked into the classroom. The room was full. Every seat was taken. People stood along the back wall. She recognized some faces. Dr. Williams gave her an encouraging smile. Dr. Foster, the department head, sat in the front row. Other professors she had seen around the building. Students with notebooks ready. And there in the very front was Minji. Her daughter looked so proud it made Soo-jin want to cry. Everyone, Dr. Chen said, I want to introduce Park Soo-jin. She will be presenting the solution to the differential equation problem I posed to my advanced calculus class. Ms. Park's approach is both elegant and unconventional, and I think you will find it very interesting. Soo-jin walked to the front of the room. The blackboard stretched out behind her, clean and waiting. For 3 years she had cleaned this board. Now she would write on it. She picked up a piece of chalk. Her hand shook slightly. She turned to face the audience. Thank you for coming, she said. Her voice was quiet, but the room was silent. Everyone was listening. I want to start by showing you the problem. She wrote the equation on the board. The familiar symbols flowed from her hand. She had written this equation so many times in her notebooks. Now she was writing it for others to see. When I first saw this problem, she said, I recognized something. The structure reminded me of problems I studied many years ago in Korea. Classical problems. Most modern approaches use computer programs and numerical methods, but I did not have access to these tools, so I had to use older techniques. As she talked, her nervousness began to fade. This was mathematics. This was what she knew. She explained her reasoning step by step, writing equations on the board as she went. She showed how she had broken down the problem, how she had seen the pattern, how she had applied the substitution method. At one point, she used a Korean mathematical term because she could not remember the English word. She started to apologize, but Dr. Foster interrupted. That term is actually more precise than the English equivalent, he said. Please continue. The presentation lasted 40 minutes. When Soo-jin wrote the final step of the solution on the board, someone in the back started clapping. Then others joined in. Soon the whole room was applauding. Soo-jin turned to face them, chalk still in her hand. She felt overwhelmed. These people, these real mathematicians, were applauding her work. Questions? Dr. Chen asked. Several hands went up. A graduate student asked about a particular transformation she had used. Soo-jin explained it clearly, drawing additional diagrams on the board. Another professor asked why she chose one method over another. She answered honestly that it was the method she knew best, the one she had learned as a young student. Then a young woman in the third row raised her hand. Ms. Park, I have a personal question. If that is okay? Soo-jin nodded. Why did you not pursue mathematics when you first came to America? If you had this talent, why did you become a janitor? The room went quiet. It was the question everyone wanted to ask but had been too polite to say out loud. Soo-jin thought about how to answer. She could give a simple response. She could say it was complicated. She could change the subject. But these people had listened to her mathematics. They deserved an honest answer. I did not become a janitor because I wanted to, she said slowly. I became a janitor because I needed to survive. When I came to America, I had a baby daughter and no money. I could not afford to go to school. I could not afford to wait for the right job. I took the first job that would pay me enough to feed my child and keep a roof over our heads. She looked around the room. For many years, I thought I had failed. I thought I had wasted my education and my talent. Every night I cleaned these classrooms and looked at the equations on the boards, and I felt like I had lost something important. Like I had given up on who I was supposed to be. Her voice grew stronger, but I learned something. I learned that I am still a mathematician even when I am cleaning floors. Even when I am tired and poor and afraid, the mathematics never left me. It was always there, waiting. And when I saw Dr. Chen's problem on the board, I remembered that. I remembered who I am, she paused. So to answer your question, I became a janitor because life is hard, because sometimes we have to make choices we do not want to make. But I am still a mathematician. I never stopped being a mathematician. I just forgot it for a while. The room was absolutely silent when she finished. Then the young woman who asked the question stood up and started clapping again. Others joined her. This time the applause was louder, longer. Some people were crying. Minji was definitely crying. After the seminar ended, people crowded around Soo-jin. Professors wanted to talk about her method. Students wanted to know about her background. Dr. Williams hugged her and whispered, "You were perfect." Over the next few days, Soo-jin's life changed in ways she could never have imagined. The local newspaper heard about her story and wrote an article. "Janitor solves impossible math problem," the headline read. The article spread online. People shared it on social media. News channels picked it up. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk to the janitor mathematician. A reporter came to interview Soo-jin at the university. She asked questions about Soo-jin's life, her struggles, her dreams. Soo-jin tried to be honest without making her story sound too sad. She did not want people to pity her. She just wanted them to understand. The story went national. Soo-jin appeared on a morning talk show. She sat on a couch in front of bright lights wearing clothes Minji had helped her pick out, answering questions about mathematics and motherhood and never giving up on your dreams. It felt surreal. But the media attention was not the most important thing that happened. More important were the opportunities. Dr. Chen worked with her on the paper. helping her translate her work into formal academic language. They submitted it to a mathematics journal. The reviewers were impressed. "This classical approach offers new insights into an old problem," one reviewer wrote. The paper was accepted for publication. Several organizations that supported women in mathematics reached out to Su Jin. They offered fellowships and scholarships for returning scholars. One organization specifically helped immigrants who had left their studies behind. They connected Su Jin with other people who had similar stories, people who had put their dreams on hold and were now trying to pursue them again. The university administration created a special pathway for Su Jin. They would allow her to audit graduate-level courses for free while working part-time in the mathematics department. If she did well, she could eventually apply to the graduate program with a full scholarship. It would take years, but she could finish her education. She could earn a degree. 1 month after the seminar, the mathematics department held a small celebration for the publication of the paper. Dr. Chen gave a short speech, thanking Su Jin for her partnership. Then he invited her to say a few words. Su Jin stood in front of the faculty and students holding a copy of the journal with her name on it. Park Su Jin and Marcus Chen, her name in print in an academic journal, proof that she was real, proof that her work mattered. "Thank you all," she said. "Thank you to Dr. Chen for seeing something in me that I had stopped seeing in myself. Thank you to Dr. Williams and Dr. Foster for supporting me. Thank you to everyone in this department who made me feel welcome." She held up the journal. "For 15 years I thought my life had taken a wrong turn. I thought I had failed. But I realize now that there is no single path to where we are meant to be. Sometimes we take long detours. Sometimes we lose our way completely. But if we keep going, if we stay true to who we are, we can still arrive at our destination." She looked at Minji, who was sitting in the audience beaming at her. "My daughter told me that being afraid means you are about to do something brave." She was right. I was terrified to come forward. I was terrified to claim my work. But I did it anyway. And now everything has changed. She smiled. "I do not know what the future holds. I'm starting over at 42. I will be a graduate student alongside people half my age. I will struggle. I will make mistakes. But I will also learn. I will grow. I will become the mathematician I was always meant to be. And I want to say to anyone listening, it is never too late. It is never too late to reclaim your dreams. It is never too late to be who you really are." I am proof of that. The room erupted in applause. People stood. Dr. Chen handed her flowers. Minji ran up and hugged her. Su Jin held her daughter and cried happy tears. 3 months later, Su Jin sat in a graduate-level mathematics class. She was the oldest student in the room by 20 years. The material was challenging. Many of the techniques were new to her, but she took notes carefully and asked questions when she did not understand. After class, she went to her small office in the mathematics building. It was barely more than a closet, but it was hers. She had a desk and a computer and a bookshelf. On the wall, she had hung the framed copy of her published paper. The first paper, but hopefully not the last. She still did some custodial work. She still cleaned a few offices to supplement her income. But now she also attended classes, helped professors with research, and worked on new problems. She had 2 lives that were slowly becoming one. That evening, before going home, Su Jin walked through the empty hallways of the mathematics building. She passed the classroom she used to clean. She remembered how it felt to stand in the doorway looking in, feeling like she did not belong. Now she taught in some of these rooms. Now she sat in the student desks. Now she wrote on the blackboards. Now she belonged. In Dr. Chen's classroom, she stopped. The impossible problem was no longer on the board. Instead, there was a new problem, a different challenge for a different group of students. Su Jin smiled. She pulled out her phone and took a picture of the problem. Not because she felt obligated to solve it, not because she was desperate to prove herself, but because she could, because she was a mathematician and this was what mathematicians did. They looked at problems and wondered about solutions. They saw puzzles and wanted to solve them. She was no longer the janitor who solved an impossible problem. She was simply a mathematician. And that was enough. At home, she found Minji at the kitchen table doing homework. Calculus homework. Her daughter was taking advanced mathematics now, inspired by her mother's story. "How was class?" Minji asked. "Hard," Su Jin admitted, "but good." They worked together on their respective problems. Mother and daughter, both studying mathematics, both chasing dreams that had once seemed impossible. Later, as Soo-jin was getting ready for bed, she looked at herself in the mirror. She saw the lines around her eyes, the gray hairs beginning to show, the roughness of her hands from years of cleaning work. She looked like someone who had worked hard, someone who had struggled, someone who had survived. But she also saw something else. She saw determination. She saw hope. She saw a mathematician. She thought about the girl she had been in Seoul, sitting in university classes, dreaming of a career in mathematics. That girl could never have imagined the path her life would take. The hardship, the loss, the years spent cleaning floors, but that girl also could never have imagined this moment. Standing here at 42, starting over with a published paper behind her and a graduate degree ahead of her, with a daughter who believed in her, with a community of mathematicians who respected her, with proof that dreams deferred are not dreams destroyed. Soo-jin turned off the light and climbed into bed. Tomorrow she had class, then office hours, then more studying. The work would be hard, the path would be long, but she was ready. She had already done the impossible once. She could do it again. In the darkness, she smiled. She thought about equations and variables, about problems waiting to be solved, about all the mathematics she still had to learn. She thought about Minji, asleep in the next room, and about the life they were building together. She had been lost for 15 years. But she had found herself again, not in spite of the hard years, but because of them. She had become someone stronger, wiser, more determined than the young student she had been. The journey was not over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But that was okay. Soo-jin was not afraid anymore. She was a mathematician. She was a mother. She was a survivor. She was someone who proved that it was never too late to reclaim your dreams. And tomorrow she would wake up and prove it all over again.